I've got the holes drilled. I didn't record it. It is just too monotonous to record. But here, just give me a second. Sorry about the camera moving. The crayon fits. The crayon's not really necessary at this point because I'm not doing the refractory lining yet. On top of the KO, you don't really want to breathe the fibers that come off that stuff. But what this will allow me to do is in the summer, because it's going to get down to minus 22 today. It's already like minus 5 now at noon. So, you know, I think our high was minus 2. The wind's raging out there. I don't even know if the refractory caulking is going to work unless I have the NIPCO running all night tonight. So, since the wife's at her parents', I may be visiting. I may do an all-nighter just to make sure this dries. And then while I'm doing that, I'll build the quench tank and maybe do some more work on the patah itself, depending on how long it takes to secure. I want a nice day to quench because I'm going to put the oil tank outside. So, yeah, I'm not going to light up. What is that? At least 8 gallons of oil in here. But there it is. Now I'm going to go get the ceramic blanket and figure out my geometry for making the circle. And then I think I'm going to set the gap in it. There's 2 choices. There's varying schools of thought on these choices. One, if I put the crack on the top, I know that the gases are going to come in the top. But you can actually kind of drill holes through it. So if I put the crack like over here, you know, the seam, then I can drill holes in there. If I put it down here, say, it's still not going to interfere with where I lay the swords, but then it gives this whole thing some rigidity to hold the top up there like a dome. And that's kind of what I want for now. Of course, later this summer I can, when it's actually warm, I can do some things to brace it up in there and then coat the whole inside and it'll have a shell on it. But just trying to make this work so I can get this patah out this next week here, hopefully. So that's what we're going to wrestle with today. Oh yes, and everything thawed out and gave me ice in here, so I get to skate around while I'm working. Okay, we've got it in there, and you can see there's white stuff in all the holes. That's the insulation peeking up. And I did drill one here. You can see all the way down in there. So it is drillable in a way. That NIPCO sure blows them fibers around in here though. You gotta have a respirator. So if we look inside, I've taken this edge here and stacked it on itself so that it actually pushes itself up. Now the next step will be to trim the ends and then drill all these holes out. And then I can cut a circle for the back, mush it in there, dry fit the cap on the back, and then start fabricating the mechanism that will bolt this the top of the tube in, and as well set up everything for the blower to hook in and all that. and then we'll go from there. Yeah, I'd like to plumb the gas line clear to the front so that I can have, you know, gas controls here, and then a switch for my blower here, so I can turn on my gas, hit my blower with one hand while I got a lit propane torch with the other, and I can stand off to the side to run all the controls, because it kind of belches flames this way once in a while when you first light it. That's kind of what you'd expect, just like a regular little forge, only more Canon-esque, if you will. Okay, the end cap's installed with that little circle of K-wool that I was talking about. And when I go get the fire clay, I'll actually seal the back of this with that cement before I screw it on. Or maybe I'll just caulk around it. That could certainly work too. I think it's more effective if I put it on the plate first and squish it in. And then, you know. But yeah, all of these holes now are nice, well, relatively cleaned out. And the neat thing is the little hairs hanging down from the holes inside, they start glowing red, and they actually kind of work as igniters to keep it burning. It works really well. That might be a downside if I ever go to a hard refractory. But starting to look like the old one. With a, you know, of course I would have just welded that angled piece on if I was building it like the old one. I gotta say that this thinner material is a lot easier to drill than 1/2 inch big pipe. That was exhaustive. This wasn't so bad. Wasn't nearly as bad. But, I think being able to take this rail off the top so that I can inspect the holes, fix them, do all those kind of things, I think it's going to add. I mean, I'll use it indefinitely. I've made an executive decision. Hold on. This tube, of course, warped when I welded these in full length. Even though I staggered them, it still bananaed a little bit. I didn't notice it, but it caused this to pop up. So now I have to try to seal an actual gap with caulk, or with mud. And, okay, so what? I could clamp it in, I could do some things. So my question is, or my idea is, at the very least, I'm going to have to tack weld that thing to keep it from popping as this thing expands with heat normally during use. So my question is if I just weld that on there solid like the old one, I know it defeats the purpose of putting those round bars on there, but I think most of my problem was not being able to tamp that up the right way. I don't know. I don't really want to weld that the whole way, but I don't want to fight with mud either all the time. I did get a decade of it out of it last time, and I made more than 8 blades. I made closer to 15 or 20. I forgot about all the short swords I made with it too. So I don't want to weld the back on. That's just more work. After I've done all that stuff here to do that, you know, make that come off. I think that's still important. So so I can reach in from both ends and fix the lining. Well, you know, I can always weld it more later. I think I'm just going to tack it in place and then use mud, and then at the very least, if I need to remove that, I just have to cut the tack welds. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cinch it up with some ratchet straps to hold it down, and then just give it some 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch tacks every 6 or 8 inches or so, and then that should help me with that. Yeah, not really the way I wanted to do that. But if that's the case, I don't have to fight with brackets to bolt it in place, so I guess it saves time on one end where it removes it from the other. And then on the end here, I can just weld in full, and because there's going to be more pressure down here with this thing. So, and then if the clay doesn't work, I can just wire brush it out and weld the whole works. I'd rather not, but it's what I have to do. It's what I have to do. Okay, I'll get going on that. As I was fitting it, I noticed it sticking up stupid like that. Okay, YouTube, there's a test fire, and it works. And it works with the little blower too. That's cool. And seeing as how I did the test here with duct tape, I think the furnace refractory, along with the tack welds, will work great. That is beautiful. I mean, if I had the quench tank built, I could quench that patah now. You can't really see the little blue flames in there very well, but it's working. It's working awesome. But my tape's starting to get funky. It is becoming compromised on the end. So yeah, I'm going to shut it off and quit while I'm ahead. So I'll just hit the off switch there. Shut the tank off. Just let my fan continue to blow through, because there's any residual propane, so it don't go bang. But yeah, it's gonna work great. I just had to do that before I went and invested a whole bunch more in it. I've built them before, so I figured it would work, but I just want to make sure.